other tips and tricks. This is a presentation that I like doing simply because I think that cover letters tend to be intimidating. I think students, and myself included, historically speaking, tend to be intimidated by cover letters because it's, you know, a page document. It's basically your story in written form. And it can be kind of difficult to figure out what you want to write about, how to ground your experience, how to describe your experience and relate it back to the company. So hopefully these tips and tricks will help you to get a good starting point of how you can make your cover letter strong. All right, so question number one, do I really need a cover letter? The answer is yes and no. It depends. So sometimes cover letters are required for job applications and sometimes they're optional. I can't really say that there is a particular trend when it comes to stuff like this per position, per company, per industry. It really just depends on, you know, the specific positions, companies, industries, specific time of the year that the application is open, the specific year-to-year situations, like right now during a pandemic, the trends are a little bit different. So, you know, sometimes you need one, sometimes you don't. They are not needed for career fairs or any networking events. I just wanted to point that out. Cover letters are basically only necessary when you're actually submitting a job application. You do not need to have one created to go to a career fair. That's absolutely not necessary. Networking events, you don't need a cover letter because the point of a cover letter is to expand upon your resume and kind of tell the narrative behind your experiences and your skills. And in doing so, connecting your experiences back to the job description and kind of telling them and connecting the dots specifically about how you would be a good hire for them and for their company culture, etc. So because of that, we only need them in job applications because that's the only time that you're actually making moves to try and get in with the company in a formal way. And one thing to think about when you're trying to figure out, do I need one? Do I write one? Let's say it's an optional scenario, where you don't need a cover letter and you're asking yourself, you know, should I submit one if it's optional? The answer is, it depends, as always. So a strong cover letter can help you, whereas a poor cover letter can hurt you. So if you are in a situation where a cover letter is optional, you should only be submitting one unless you are 100% confident in it, because it's better to have nothing than a document that makes you look bad. So keep that in mind, that it's better to just not submit anything than rush and get something done at the last minute. It's better to just leave them with what you know is strong, which is ideally your resume. Okay, so what should I say in a cover letter? This tends to be where students get a little bit intimidated because they think, you know, I don't know what they want to hear from me, what's kind of the point of the cover letter. And what I always tell students is, and I kind of alluded to this before, the cover letter is basically the narrative of your story. So whereas the resume is the quantitative data, the cover letter is almost your qualitative data. So it ties everything together, ties all of your experiences and your skills together, and relates it back to the company, how you can help the company and why they should hire you. So ultimately in your cover letter, you need to be telling that narrative and focusing on why you want the job and how you're a good match. So, you know, within the cover letter, you want to be kind of putting your best foot forward, just because this is you in paper form and you need to figure out, like, what are my biggest selling points? What are my most important attributes that I might need to get hired at this job? What are the most relevant experiences that I have? So as you are crafting your cover letter, do some reflection on what your biggest selling points are and how you can weave them into your cover letter. Another thing that's important within a cover letter is to convey enthusiasm and confidence. So a resume, when you submit it, like I said, it's basically your quantitative data, whereas the cover letter is your opportunity to show them how excited you are about the position, how much you want to work for this company, how you think that you'd be a good fit, etc. So make sure that your words are leaping off the page in a sense, just showing them how much you're really committed to potentially working for them. Okay, so this is just a general example of what a cover letter would look like. this is kind of a shrunken down version of a page. A cover letter should only be 1 page long. It should not go over a page. The reason for that, if you're wondering, is just because people don't like to read that many words. You need to make sure that you're being concise. It's important to be able to make a point and stick to it and do that pretty quickly. So this is what a typical cover letter will look like. And then from here, we're going to go into all of the parts. Okay, so you saw them on the first page, but just to reiterate the different parts, there are 6. So first is the date, then the salutation, so the hello. We have the introduction paragraph, we have our body paragraphs, our closing paragraph, and then our signature and our name. So one way that I like to tell students that they should think about a cover letter is by thinking about a 5-paragraph essay. So I'm sure many of us, if not all of us in high school, or even during some basic level English courses at Penn State, have been required to create 5-paragraph essays. So it always has a conclusion, it always has an introduction, and then your body paragraphs to basically give the substantiation and the evidence for everything that you're saying in your introduction and closing. So if it helps you to think about it as an essay rather than a cover letter, by all means think about it that way, because that's basically how it is structured. And I know that helps me because, again, cover letters can be a little bit intimidating, and if you can relate it back to something you know, I think it's helpful. All right, so contact information and salutation. Make sure you have the correct month, date, and year. That should go without saying, but sometimes students will recycle old cover letters and tweak them a little bit and forget to change the date. So make sure you do that. Then you are going to start out your salutation using just dear Mr., Miss, Doctor. Notice how Mrs. is not included in this. That's because it is not professional to address somebody that you don't know as Mrs. because you do not know if they are married or not, and it is not respectful to assume. So these are some examples of appropriate titles that you can use for somebody. If you know that somebody has their doctorate, then definitely address them with doctor unless they instruct you not to do so moving forward. And then if you do not have the name of the person that the cover letter is addressed to, then you can just say hiring manager or human resources department, something like that. It's obviously better at times to keep it vague if you don't know than to just find a random name on a website and hope for the best. All right, so the introduction paragraph. So this should have, first and foremost, your name, your university name, major, and you're in school. You want to know that, or you want them to know who they are talking to and who they're hearing from. You're going to say the full name of the company, the position title that you're applying for. Typically, that all goes within 1 sentence. In the introduction paragraph, you're also going to focus on how you heard about the opportunity, why you decided to apply for this position, and kind of the ins and outs of that. So how your values and interests match, or why the mission is something that you connect with, why their brand is of interest to you, why their services are things that you have consumed in the past. Basically, the second half of the introduction paragraph, I would say almost reads like a love letter, because you are just flattering them. You are saying, you know, I am applying for this accounting internship with Deloitte. I heard about this opportunity at the career fair this past fall, and I had a wonderful conversation with Maria about it. She helped me to gain a greater understanding of Deloitte's ethics and values, and I really connect with those ethics and values because my perception on X value is that it's blah, blah, blah. So you know, you are kind of setting yourself up contextually by saying to them, you know, this is why I'm applying for the position that I'm applying for. And then in the body paragraphs is where you kind of connect your experiences back to why you're applying for the position. Also, I know that I talk a little bit quickly, so if anyone needs me to slow down, please give me a heads up. So, okay, this is a sample of an introduction that you would typically see on a cover letter. Don't get too hung up on the length. We just wanted to kind of show you an example. So yours can be shorter, it can be longer. As long as it all stays on a page, it doesn't really matter. So I'll give you a second just to read over this quickly. All right, so there's a few different things just to take note of in this introduction sample. One of the first things is they do a good job relating their experience back to how they could contribute the company. They relate back their interest in the culture and how that can help them to pursue their long-term goals. One thing that this student did is they kind of introduced themselves with some of their information in the middle of their paragraph. You can do that if you want to, or you can start out the paragraph by saying, you know, my name is Maria. I am a junior student in accounting at Penn State University in the Smoke College of Business. So whatever the order you want it to be is totally fine, as long as you have all of the content weaved in some way or another. Okay, so then you have your body paragraphs. So within your body paragraphs, it's important to make sure that you're not repeating your resume. You do not need to be saying in your body paragraphs everything that you did within any experience or organization, because at the end of the day, they can find that information on the resume. The cover letter is your opportunity to tell them things that they can't find on the resume. So that would often look like big picture details. So rather than saying what you did as a waitress, you could say what you learned from the experience. So you learned really good teamwork skills, you learned how to communicate effectively, you learned how to stay calm in high pressure situations. So make sure that you're not just repeating your tasks, because it's redundant and not necessary on the cover letter. So in addition, you want to make sure that you're selecting skills and experiences based on what's relevant for the position you're applying for. For example, I think that a skill of mine is my ability to empathize. But if I was applying for an engineering position, that wouldn't really be necessary. So make sure that what you are choosing to discuss and write about are different things that you think would help you be successful in that position, or specifics that you know they're looking for a new hire. So one way to kind of ground yourself and figure out how to create these body paragraphs within a cover letter is at the bottom here. I really like this strategy because I know for me, I crave structure, and if it's open-ended, I struggle. So what we usually typically recommend for students to do is either write about one skill or skill sets per paragraph and support it with examples and experiences, or write about one experience per paragraph and then highlight the skills and accomplishments from that experience. So for example, your first paragraph could be about your waitressing experience and your ability to communicate, stay calm, and you know, work well on a team, and then have another experience. Or the first paragraph could be all about your communication skills, and you could talk about your waitressing job. You could talk about the fact that you are president of a business fraternity, and you could also discuss a case competition. So again, these are just good ways to kind of ground your paragraphs and make sure that you're staying on track, and also just kind of having themes in your resume. I know for some students who have a ton of experiences on the resume, it's better to kind of give yourself some main bubbles of skills so that you can highlight all of your experiences underneath and they all can fit, as opposed to just picking 2 or 3 and having 2 body paragraphs. And then for some students who maybe are lacking with experiences on the resume and don't have too many experiences, then I would recommend having your body paragraphs grounded within the experiences and then talking about all of your skill sets within them. So again, just to reiterate myself, if you have a lot of experiences on the resume, then it's better for you to organize your body paragraphs in skill sets. And if you don't have too many experiences on the resume, it's better to organize your body paragraphs under experience. Okay, so this is just a sample. Go ahead and read through it quickly. It's not a comprehensive body paragraph, just because at the end, we keep it a little bit open-ended, but take a look at it. All right, so as you can see, this person decided to create this paragraph based on an experience, and then they go in to name their specific skill sets that they took from this: collaborating on diverse teams, improving client relationships, developing communication and presentation skills. and then they go into an example. So you don't necessarily have to give an example or tell a story within a body paragraph. You can if you want to, but oftentimes that takes up a lot of space and some students don't have room for that. So just know that that is completely optional. All right, getting into the conclusion paragraph. So you should refer back to the position and company again, give them that little reminder. State that you hope to have the opportunity to discuss the position further. This is important to do just because you want to reiterate your interest and seem enthusiastic overall. That's a big goal of ours when it comes to the cover letter. So make sure you restate your enthusiasm. And then you can invite them to contact you. Your phone number and email address is super important to have in this paragraph on the resume. Certainly this information is, or on the cover letter, certainly this information is on your resume as well, but sometimes materials get separated on accident. So you also want them to have your contact information on the cover letter, just in case. And then obviously say thank you. People are essentially doing you a favor in a sense by taking the time to read through your materials. So make sure you thank them for their time and consideration. And then this is just an example of a conclusion paragraph. So this paragraph is the shortest on the resume, just because there's not too much that you can really personalize here. It's pretty straightforward. So I always tell students, start with a conclusion paragraph first on a cover letter because it's a nice box that you can check to just get done and get out of the way when you're creating it. All right, so then lastly, signature. This is super straightforward, but I'm just kind of giving you a reminder. These are some appropriate words to use in closing before your name. Sincerely, respectfully, kind regards, thank you, etc. Just make sure it's appropriate. I only say that because I have seen some cover letters with some signatures that kind of would go more with a friend letter or a love letter, like love always, or I don't know, stuff like that. And that's definitely not appropriate when you're addressing someone that you not only don't know, but also it's a professional context. So make sure that your signature is very professional. You can have a handwritten signature at the bottom, but it's definitely not required. Just your type name is certainly enough. Make sure that is your full name or whatever it is that you go by. All right, so polishing up the resume, just a few tips in doing that. Make sure that it's the same font size and style as your resume, just because it looks good, visually speaking. There's not much more to it than that. If somebody prints out both documents and they have your resume and cover letter sitting side by side and they look similar in that way, it's just something that somebody sees and thinks to themselves, wow, this person has great attention to detail. Always, always, always turn in a cover letter in a PDF format, not a Word document, not pages, nothing else but PDF. And the reason for that is because Word sometimes has different versions from computer to computer. So you can send your Word document over, and when somebody else downloads it on their computer, the formatting is all wonky. So if you're able to submit it in a PDF, that will not change from computer to computer. So definitely do that. And optional, you can also use your heading from your resume if you want to be more consistent in those two ways, but it's not necessary. Okay, so more cover letter help. We have a lot of tips, samples, videos, etc. on our website, so feel free to check out that information. And then if you would like to have somebody review your cover letter and just make sure that it all is making sense, have somebody proofread it, check for misspellings, I would definitely recommend doing that. And you can schedule an appointment with any of the career coaches in the BCC through Nittany Lion Careers at any time. We do have student drop-in hours, but please note that our drop-in hours are staffed by our student interns and they do not review cover letters. So if you do want a cover letter appointment, you will have to do that with a career coach. All right, we zoomed through that. And like I said, most of that was because I talk at the speed of light. So if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. You can also ask questions in the chat. If you would like this PowerPoint emailed to you, I'm happy to send it over. Just send me an email and I can put my email in the chat here. Send me an email and I can send it to you if you would like it. If you want to schedule an appointment, feel free to do so. But otherwise, we are good to go. I hope that you're all doing well. Let me know if you need anything and have a great rest of your night or day, depending on where you are.